Hello, welcome to today's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where we are going to crack the killer Sudoku, the deadly rated puzzle from today's times. So as usual, I'm just going to fill in some obvious numbers and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so the only thing I think we can conclusively say is that we have a 1, 2, 4 in the 7 box here, but I can see how we can fill in a number straight away, and that's this number highlighted on the screen, because if we look at the 3 by 3 boxes on the right hand side of this grid, all of the boxes within these 3 by 3 boxes are contained entirely within these 3 columns, and we know these 3 columns add up to 135 because each 3 by 3 box must add up to 45. So we know that this box represents the difference between the sum of all of these boxes and 135. So let's just sum that up. So we've got 40, 55, 85, 98, 121, 133. So this is a 2, I think. There we go. And okay, so then these 3 boxes here sum to 23, and that is a very restricted number. So that's 689 in some. Oops, oh dear, I didn't mean to do that. 689, and then this is 689. Okay, so what can we say now? Anything else about this? Nothing much more at this point. Just so you know, one of the things I was immediately looking at is this 25. I'm wondering whether it's possible to conclude this must contain a 9. I don't think that is the case, because if we think of 8765, that adds up to 26. If I had been able to isolate a 9 in one of these cells, I would know that there was also a 9 in one of these 3 cells, so I would know the 9 in this final row 7 here, in these 3 positions, must appear up here, but we can't quite conclude that, so we need to think again. So the next place I'm looking here is this really unusual 15 box, this sort of N-shaped box appearing in box B. Now a 15 and a 5 has to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 add up to 15, so we couldn't include anything else and meet the conditions of the puzzle, so we need to note that. I think we can go further, because if we look at rows 1 and 2, we can see that we have a lot of boxes completely contained within rows 1 and 2, with the exception of something going on with this 15 box. So let's just add up these boxes and see what number we get. So here we have 18, 45, 57, 60, 80. So we know these 3 numbers add up to 10, and that means that they must contain a 5. And we know that these 2 numbers therefore add up to 5, which means they could be 1, 4 or 2, 3. But let's make use of what we found out there and see if that can help us. There are quite a lot of restrictions now occurring here, because well, let's just note some of these things down. So we can see that can only be 6, 7, 8, 9, and the same is true of these 3 numbers here. And we can also see in row 2 now that we have 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 limited to these 5 cells. So every other number in row 2 must be a 6, 7, 8, 9 in some combination. And then we can just use some fairly simple logic. You can see that whatever I set the value of this cell to be, I'm also restricting the value of this cell. So for example, if we make this cell a 6, These three cells here add up to 24, so there'll be 7, 8 and 9 in some combination. And therefore this one has to be a 3. So we should note that. And I mean, the same if you just replace this with the other numbers that are possible. You get 3, 4, 5 and 6. Well, 4 isn't possible in this cell because we already have 4 in one of these positions. So we can delete the 4, which means we can also, it means this can't be a 7. And similarly, if we come over here, this cell is limited to 6, 7, 8, 9, which means that this is 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, the 2 and the 4 cannot be included because we've already got a 2 and a 4 in this box. So we're left with 3, 5 here, like this. And you can see how we're just starting to close in on some numbers here, because what I'm looking at here is the 6 and the 8 is locked. There's the only possibilities left for this cell. And if we scan across, that means that the 7 and the 9 have to appear in this right 3 by 3 box, box C. The 7 and the 9 are definitely in this box and definitely in row 2. That means that neither the 7 nor the 9 appear in these two boxes for the 12. Now 12 can be made 3 ways in 2 numbers. It can be 3, 9, 4, 8 or 5, 7. So we've now limited this to 4, 8 because it cannot contain a 7 or a 9. Now we can delete that from there. And we've now forced the value of this cell. This cell now must be an 8, so we should put that in. Which means that here we've got 6, 7, 9, which is 22, which means this is a 5. Excuse the speed at which I can type numbers in this app. It takes far too long. And therefore, this is 3, and this is 8. And now we're going to get another number straight away because we can delete the 8s from here. Again, we've got 6, 7, 9. Again, that's 22. So now this cell must be a 1 to make this box work. And this is a 2. Therefore, and now I can delete 1, 4 from all of these boxes, which means that. So we've really we're starting to make a lot of progress now, just by working very hard with this original 15 box. And I've just filled in the possibilities along row 3 here, just so that everyone can see the state of play. And the next obvious thing to do is we've now got an 8 in the 22, so this is 5, 9 in some combination. And we've also got an 8 in column 6 here. Now, we can't quite tell, in fact we can, because we've got a 1, 4 here. There are 2 ways of making 8 in 3. It could be 1, 3, 4 or 1, 2, 5. Now if this was 1, 3, 4, fairly obviously there would be absolutely nothing this number could be. It cannot be a 1 or a 4. So this is 1, 2, 5 in some combination, and that is going to be very helpful. Firstly, because this now is forced to be a 4 and this is forced to be a 1. Secondly, this is forced to be a 5. So neither, oh, like that. There we go. Now this is forced to be a 5 and this is forced to be a 9, and we're really starting to make some very good progress now. This is forced to be a 5 because it's the only thing it can be. And this is forced to be a 9. I'm not going to quite say that we're done here. It's possible that the puzzle will contain, you know, another bit of more difficult logic, but it certainly is looking pretty good here, isn't it, in terms of where we're headed to. 6, 7 here, and this has got to be a 3. And immediately I'm looking down at these 3 cells, a 9 that cannot contain a 5 or a 6. Well, there is only one way of doing that, and that's with the numbers 2, 3 and 4. So that is going to really restrict this box too. In fact, we can go further than that because we already have a 2 in row 9. So this now must be a 2. And we've only got 3, 4 in some combination here, like that. So this is 1, 7 in some combination, so this is 7. And this is 1. And therefore this is 2. Therefore this 6 is now heavily restricted because it can't be the 2, 4 version of the 6, it has to be the 1, 5 version. And interestingly, again, we can look across, and you remember we've limited this 12 here, which was extremely important. Well, down here we can do something similar. The 3 and the 4 in row 9 force this to be a 5, 7 in some combination, which then, just using Sudoku logic, means that this is forced to be a 5 and this is forced to be a 1. Okay, can't quite place the 1 in box I at the moment. We will be able to soon. And we can immediately look back at the central box now, and we can figure out the value of this cell. So see if you can work out how you can do that. So obviously we have a 9 and a 5 here, which is 14, plus 18 is 32, plus 3 is 35, and then we have, in this box here, these 3 cells have to add up to 18, but we know that these 2 cells add up to 10 because we just got 35 in the box already. So these 2 are 10, this is 11, and this is an 8. And there are some simple restrictions now that we should be able to see. This 13 is going to be very limited here in terms of, I mean, if this is a 9, you can see this has to be 1, 3. Now, interestingly, that is possible. But compare that situation to if this is a 7. If this is a 7, these 2 cells have to add up to 6, which means they're either 2, 4 or 1, 5. Well, both of those are actually ruled out, so this is not a 7. And that is really nice because we've already got 6, 9 in this cell, and now we've got a 6, 9 up here as well. So we're left with 1, 3, 4, 7 as being the only other numbers to place in column 3. And 1, 3, 4 and 7, well, we can immediately see that the 7 cannot appear in either of these positions because then this will break. So this must be the 7. And we're left with this being 1, 3, 4 in some combination. Like that, I think. And again, we can just use some fairly simple restriction logic here. We can see we've got a 1 and a 4 in this cell. Therefore, the 3 is appearing in one of these 2 positions. Don't know which one yet, but it's definitely in one of them. Now let's look at this 8. Well, this 8 can be 1, 7, 2, 6 or 3, 5. Well, it can't be 3, 5 because we've just said there's a 3 in one of these 2 positions. It can't be 2, 6 because there's a 2 in the column already. So in fact, this is 1, 7, which means that this cannot contain a 1, and therefore this must be a 6. And this is a 9, and this cannot be a 9. And now I think this cell here can only be a 9. This can only be a 7. As shown here, that this has now got to be the 1. This has got to be a 4. Like so, shown. And so we've now got 16 in these two cells, so these two cells add up to 8. Well, we've already said we can't have 3, 5 in the box. Luckily the 2 doesn't stop us from having a 2, 6 combination here. So let's make a note of that, because we've now really restricted column 1. I mean, what are we left with? 4, 9 I think is the only two numbers that we haven't placed. So let's put the 4 and the 9 in. Well, and now this must be a 9, this must be a 4. 4 and 9 add up to 13, so these two cells add up to 13. And we must be able to, I think, restrict those, because we've already got 7, 6 ruled out, we've already got 9, 4 ruled out, so these are 5, 8 in some combination, and the only combination that is allowed is this one, which means that this is a 6, which makes this a 3, which means this is a 6, and I think it is done now. So we'll probably finish it off to music. I thought this puzzle was perhaps a shade easier than usual. Perhaps we got lucky in terms of where we started. You know, focusing on this 15 box was obviously very key, and that basically blew the whole top of the puzzle open, and we've been able to make steady progress from there. So I hope this was helpful. I should put up another video in the next couple of days to finish off the Time Sudoku Championship Grand Final puzzles. If there's anything else you want to see, please let us know, and we'll see you again next time on Cracking the Cryptic.